Numerous of the most recognizable fighters in the sport have come from the UFC's lightweight division. Above them stands a man who finished his career unbeaten and won gold in championship competitions. The guy known as the Eagle, undoubtedly one of the most formidable competitors in the sport, triumphed over every obstacle placed in his path inside the cage. Even though Khabib Nurmagomedov might never step foot in an octagon again, his legacy has already been recorded in history. This is the story of Khabib Nurmagomedov. Born in the village of Sildi in Dagestan in 1988, Khabib was born into a fighting family. His father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, served in the army before becoming a coach in the martial art of Sambo. In September 2019, Abdulmanap was entered into the Russian Book of Records for training and coaching the most combat Sambo champions. He was the senior coach of the national team for Dagestan and was a highly respected figure for it. As is the case with many children in Dagestan, he trained his two sons in martial arts from a very young age. When Khabib was just 7 years old, his father and 3 uncles moved all of their sons into the same house in Dagestan's capital, Makachkala. The 16 boys lived together and trained together with no women in the house. Khabib took to martial arts very well at a young age after seeing his father coach so many athletes. One of the most legendary Khabib stories came from the time when his father would make him wrestle a small bear at the age of 9 to build his character. In 2005, Khabib followed in his father's footsteps by competing in combat Sambo. Around the same time that he made his MMA debut, Khabib had won gold at the 2008 and 2009 Combat Sambo World Championships. He continued to build on his martial arts experience outside of MMA while competing in his first few professional fights. Combat Sambo wasn't Khabib's only chosen path, as he became a Eurasian hand-to-hand combat champion, a European pankration champion, and a North American Grappling Association champion. From his MMA debut in September of 2008 to October 2011, Khabib racked up a record of 16-0, competing entirely in Russia and Ukraine. With an undefeated record and all of his accolades outside of the cage, Khabib was signed to the UFC and made his debut in January of 2012. Taking on Kamal Shalhoub, Khabib opened up his UFC account with a third-round submission. After a close fight with Gleison Tebo and a first-round finish over Thiago Tavares, Khabib was given a step-up in competition with a bout against Abel Trujillo. Despite missing weight for the fight, the Eagle once again cleared this hurdle in emphatic fashion, setting a UFC record for most takedowns in a fight with 21. Khabib followed up that win with another over Pat Healy in September of 2013 and built a 5-fight win streak in the UFC. He was then matched with another fighter on their own 5-fight win streak in Rafael dos Anjos. During the fight, Khabib once again showed his dominance and put the division on notice by beating another surging contender. Unfortunately, after a blistering start to his UFC career, Khabib's momentum came to a crashing halt. Suffering several long-term injuries, Khabib had multiple fights with Donald Cerrone fall through, as well as a fight with Tony Ferguson. His return to the octagon was planned for April of 2016, almost 2 years to the day from his last fight. Once again, the matchup was made with Ferguson, but ultimately fell through, leaving Nurmagomedov with a late-notice debutant in Daryl Horcher, who he ran through with relative ease. In Khabib's 2-year absence, Rafael dos Anjos, who he had beaten before his layoff, became the lightweight champion after dethroning Anthony Pettis in March of 2015. After a successful title defense against Donald Cerrone, dos Anjos would pull out of a huge fight with Conor McGregor scheduled for UFC 196. McGregor would go on to engage in his 2-fight rivalry with Nate Diaz, leaving dos Anjos free to defend his title against Eddie Alvarez in July of 2016. After Alvarez won the belt in the first round, it was presumed that Khabib would be the first in line for the new champion after his delayed return. However, much to Khabib's dismay, the title shot was instead given to featherweight champ Conor McGregor, who had recently won his rematch with Nate Diaz. Khabib was instead used as a bargaining chip to force Alvarez into his match with Michael Johnson on the prelims of the same card. After long periods of inactivity, this was the moment where fans once again took notice of Khabib, as he dominated Michael Johnson while talking to Dana White and his opponent in the process. Feeling disrespected for not receiving the next title shot, Khabib proceeded to call out Conor McGregor in his post-fight interview, and with it, the rivalry was born. Despite another massive win, Khabib's momentum was slowed down. With Conor McGregor defeating Alvarez and pursuing a boxing match with Floyd Mayweather, the future of the lightweight belt was unknown. When Khabib was matched with Tony Ferguson for an interim title fight, the fight unfortunately fell apart once again. Khabib pulled out of the bout after he fell ill during his weight cut, and he would stay inactive for another full year before returning to defeat Edson Barbosa in December of 2017. After years of waiting, Khabib would finally get his shot at UFC gold at UFC 223. For the fourth time, a fight with Tony Ferguson would be made and cancelled as Ferguson pulled out with an injury. After several opponent changes seemed to be taking place before they were also cancelled, Khabib took on lightweight veteran Ilia Quinta, dominating the fight and becoming the first Muslim to win a UFC title. While it was a historic moment for Khabib, the achievement was overshadowed by the infamous bus attack from Conor McGregor just a few days prior. The attack came in retaliation after Khabib had slapped Conor's teammate in a hotel lobby, taking the ongoing rivalry between Khabib and the Irishman to a whole new level. With this bad blood came the biggest fight in UFC history. After years of build-up, the highly anticipated grudge match between Conor and Khabib was booked for UFC 229 in October of 2018. The event currently sits as the third best-selling pay-per-view event of all time and saw Khabib reach completely new levels of fame after defeating his most intense rival with a fourth-round submission. From here, Khabib became one of the sport's biggest stars and the most followed Russian on Instagram, partially due to the part he played in the UFC's biggest ever rivalry, but also for his antics after the fight. Not ready to bury the hatchet after the war of words, Khabib jumped the cage after the fight and kicked off a brawl that shook up the entire MMA world. After being fined and suspended from competing in Las Vegas due to the brawl he started, Khabib vowed to never fight there again. Instead, his next title fight was booked for UFC 242 in September of 2019 in what would be a huge moment for the champion, competing in Abu Dhabi where his father and head coach would be able to stand by him. Since his father had not been able to travel with him for his bouts in the US, this event marked one of the most important fights in Khabib's career. With his father and fans present, Khabib produced another incredible performance, submitting interim champ Dustin Poirier in the third round. Now 28-0 in his pro career, another fight was booked against Tony Ferguson, but was cancelled due to the outbreak of COVID-19. With Khabib unable to fly to the US, Ferguson was matched with Justin Gaethje, who snapped his opponent's dominant win streak to become the interim champion. Khabib vs. Gaethje was set for UFC 254 in Abu Dhabi, though this time, Khabib's father would not be present. After contracting COVID-19, Khabib Nurmagomedov tragically passed away on July 3rd in 2020. Just 3 months later, his son would once again defend his world title and unbeaten record with a second-round submission of Justin Gaethje. With the world watching Khabib, he fell to his knees in a wave of emotion. He then went on to explain that he had promised his mother he wouldn't fight without his father by his side and would therefore be retiring. In one of the most emotional and captivating moments in the sport's history, Khabib left the octagon for what could be a very last time. With Khabib's father always dreaming of his son being 30-0 and several big fights still out there, the potential for Khabib returning is still there. Whether the Eagle chooses to return to the octagon or stay retired, his legacy is well and truly assured. As always, if you guys enjoyed the video, please be sure to let me know by leaving a like and subscribing to our channel. Apart from that, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.